Namaste, my friends. Welcome to Bhakti Yoga Conference hosted here at Harvard Divinity School. This is a historical event. Just beautiful souls from around the world are coming together to share their wisdom, to share their devotion, their love for divinity. And we have two very special guests today. Really, the theme of this conference is grace in an age of distraction. And this is our opportunity, is to cultivate grace amidst all of the many distractions that may be catching our attention. Over 40 prominent speakers, esteemed practitioners of Bhakti Yoga are joining us. We have monks and scholars and yogis and thought leaders, musicians, therapists, and today we have conscious entrepreneurs, a very, very unique, important conversation. So far, well over 2,000 participants have registered at this time. An intimate group of us join here live in Zoom, and thank you for being here live, and thank you to those who are catching the recording. If you have any questions, please, prepare those, because we're definitely going to take some Q&A with our speakers. But first, I'm going to get them on spotlight so we can do a little introduction to these beautiful souls, longtime practitioners of Bhakti Yoga. So first, we have Rajeev Srivastava, who has over 35 years of global operating and investing experience in the US, Asia, and Europe. Prior to the merger of Basil Partners and Capital Square Partners, Rajeev founded Basil Partners as a family office in 2008, which invested in the ITES sector and then raised $171 million institutional fund in 2018. In 2022, Basil Partners merged with Capital Square Partners to raise $700 million technology services focused fund. Mr. Srivastava has been actively involved since the inception of the midday meal program in Mumbai. This program provides nutritious food to school children all over India through its 22 kitchens. The initiative, which started in 2004 with 26,000 children, has grown to serve over 1.2 million children daily. Mr. Srivastava has also been actively involved with the Govardhan Eco Village, which we keep hearing about. Actually, our yoga community will be going there in November. This is a beautiful yoga and Ayurveda retreat, 2 hours from Mumbai. Govardhan Eco Village works with over 78 tribal villages in Palghar for their social, economic, and ecological upliftment. Additionally, Mr. Srivastava is the co-founder of Arta Forum, an initiative that aims to bring Vedic teachings into the business world and guide entrepreneurs, professionals, and business leaders in applying the principle of earn with integrity, spend with compassion. That's worth writing down. Earn with integrity, spend with compassion. I love that. He's the co-founder of CEO Apar Infotech, also both at Apar and Personal Equity Fund. He's committed to giving 50% of his ownership back in service. So very blessed to have this dear Bhakti Yogi with us. And also we're graced with Prakash Govindan. He is the founder and COO of Gradient, which was valued at $1 billion in December of 2022. It's a global leader in advanced water and wastewater treatment. They've won awards like Innovative Water Company, Time Magazine Top 100 Innovations of 2024, and many more. He has an undergrad from IIT Chennai and a Ph.D. from MIT, just across the river. He's the founder of Touring Company and the Body, Mind, and Spirit Retreat. He's also a spiritual seeker and a Bhakti yogi. Also a conscious entrepreneur who, again, gives 50% of his ownership back. So just what a beautiful, you can tell we've got two beautiful souls with us here. And I just like to say personally, so I've gotten to know Rajeev this past year. He's studying his MBA here at the Harvard Business School. And you've been such a huge support here with this Bhakti Yoga conference, with connecting us with speakers, with resources. So I'm so grateful for your support. One day, Rajeev and we were sitting right here in this room, having lunch, and he was so passionately talking about the importance of Dharma in business. And he was, just so passionate about it and giving all these case studies. And he said, we really need to have a conversation like this. We need to bring someone in to talk about this at the Bhakti Yoga conference. And we just looked across the table and said, Rajeev, I think you're the guy. You've got the experience, you've got the inspiration. And he spoke so highly of Prakash Govindan. So this is our first time meeting, but I'm so grateful for you for taking the time to be here, calling in from Austin. He was just on stage at South by Southwest in Austin a couple of days ago. The title of today's talk is Dharma in Business. My friends, if you are ready to get started with Radha Giridhari Prabhu and Paramananda Prabhu, please throw your arms in the air and loudly chant Haribol. Welcome, welcome. So beautiful to have you both here with us. And so I believe what we're planning to do is we're going to give each of them about 10 minutes or so to share a little bit about their journey. Or could I even, maybe before we get into the presentation, could I just ask each of you just to share for a few minutes what brought you to your spiritual path? What brought you to Bhakti Yoga? It's just so beautiful to get to know you before we receive your wisdom and teachings, just to get to know the human behind the teachings. Maybe start with yourself, Rajeev.
Thank you all for taking the time first thing in the morning. One small correction, if you allow me. I'm not doing an MBA program at Harvard, but I'm doing what is called as Advanced Leadership Initiative, ALI program. And, the program fits in very beautifully with the theme that we have today, because Harvard School realized that, about 18 or 19 years back, that we've been the number one, or, maybe in the top business schools for more than 200, 250 years. But we strongly felt, looking at what's happening in the world, that there must be a program which teaches, which is trying to teach everybody that success is not complete unless you give back. And, like professors have even talked about what the, Vedic teachings share, which is vanaprastha. So, you study the first 25 years, you try to learn, then you earn, but then that is not complete unless you also, with the same passion that you create, or you try to create wealth for your family, but with the same passion, can you look at giving back and sharing, and thinking of yourself as a custodian of wealth, not really the owner, because nothing really belongs to us. So this program at ALI, there's no competition that Harvard feels here. They are happy to share this with. Actually, it's not Harvard only, it's MIT and Harvard. Just in one sense, like, Parmanand Prabhu and me are on this call. I mean, he's from MIT. Of course, I'm only doing a fellowship program. And now this has expanded to many top schools. You are in Austin, UT Austin has it. You also have it in Stanford, in Oxford. So all over the world, many leading schools have realized that we have to bring in this this thinking that people need to come together and figure out what they need to do to give back. And, so that's basically the theme. Very quickly on, uh, two things. What kind of, brought me, because I was studying in an engineering college, and, you know, it more started with somebody trying to convert me. And although I'm from India, I never really knew much about our own, Vedic traditions. I had the fortune of, spending the first 4 years of my life in a holy place called Mathura, but then, with the passage of time, forgot all about uh, the spiritual essence of India. And, you know, I'm grateful to His Holiness Sukhdev Swami and Radhanath Swami that I got in touch with them. Initially, I only wanted to find out what spirituality is, and so that I can debate with the people who are trying to convert me. I really wasn't planning on following it. And but when I saw that how beautifully His Holiness Sukhdev Swami explained to me and said that you don't have to, as Prabhupada has taught us, that you just need to bring spirituality into your practice and see the beauty in every other religion. If so there is no need to change your religion. You can just find the beauty there. So that's what got me, and I began my business journey also with His Holiness Radhanath Swami giving me other. I'm not from the business field. I would never have got into Harvard. At least Paramanand Prabhu and all are from top institutions, and where my in one sense background is that I don't have any great material qualifications, but simply when the spiritual teacher, you go to him and you try to think that I'd like to do something as service. Just like in the bhakti tradition, why can't we bring bhakti in business? Why can't we bring bhakti in our profession? And so when he gave that inspiration, that excited me, you know, started the company, and fortunately, I kept in touch with him, because sometimes when you start becoming relatively successful, it can go through your head. And so having a spiritual teacher and constantly consulting him has at least so far keeps me safe from not being part of the rat race or becoming a rat in the rat race, but also trying to know that the real goal of whatever we do is is to serve. That's just in a brief nutshell.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that clarification, and thank you for sharing just a taste of your journey. And just to let our friends know here, just last night, I was sitting down. I live at the Boston Temple Ashram, and I was, sitting down. We're chanting our mantras at 6 p.m. And I opened my eyes, and Radhagiri Dari Prabhu is right there with a big smile. And I love seeing that you're so, as much as you're committed to your service and to giving, you're very committed to your spiritual practice as well. And you come by to take darshan, to eat, to enjoy the prasadam meals. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know you. Now let's bring it down to Paramananda Prabhu. Will you give us a taste? I'm sure this is just a fraction, but a taste of what brought you to Bhakti Yoga.
First of all, let me thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Through the course of a day like today, I have so many meetings, and I'm speaking again at South by later today on a climate action panel, and my team is here, so I'll spend some time with them. Then I have to go to the airport. But this kind of centers my day, because once most of us don't have it in us to be hypocrites. So once you speak about principles, once you share principles with others, you automatically follow it, at least through the day, at least for me. So it's extremely helpful that you invited me. Thank you for inviting me. Before I start, I would like to say a word about Rajiv, who's a dear friend and mentor. In the Many of you might have heard of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a yoga book. It teaches karma, bhakti, and jnana yoga. And in the 13th chapter, there are some verses, I think 8 to 12, where Krishna, it's a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna talks about 20 items of knowledge, and he begins by talking about amanitvam. Amanitvam in English can be translated into humility. Literally, it can be translated into not wanting honor from others, even if you're deserving, not looking for honor from others. But, roughly translates into humility. And people teach you in many ways. They teach you by taking classes, speaking to you, but they also a great way of teaching people or learning from people is through their actions. And this gentleman, Mr. Rajiv, is truly one of my teachers, in the sense he teaches me by his actions, his humility, I mean, even the nice introduction that Jack did of Rajiv doesn't do justice to his level of material success. And yet, when he talks about himself, he says he has no material qualifications. So I just want to say I appreciate Prabhu your humility, and I hope to follow in your footsteps and at least not be arrogant if even if I cannot be humble. Um, I am a entrepreneur, engineer. Thank you for the nice introduction of me earlier, Jack. In terms of my spiritual journey, like Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita, again, I think 7th chapter, 15th verse, he talks about four kinds of people who take to the spiritual path. And the Sanskrit words are Artha, Arthartho, Jignasur, and Jnani. Um, so Artha means one who is in distress, one who has an overwhelming, distressful situation and has to solve that. He comes to the spiritual path. Arthartho means one who is looking for wealth. Jignasur means one who is inquisitive, just inquisitive about who you are, what this world is, who God is, what the connection between the three are. Or a jnani. A jnani is searching for the absolute truth, it is said. So those are the four kinds of broad classifications of people that Krishna says come to the spiritual path. I very much see myself as in the Artha category, one who was in distress. I was doing very well in my material life. I am by nature a person who likes to read and study and uh, uh, very much interested in academics throughout my growing up. And I was doing very well in academics. I got into the best university in India, and even in that, I did very well, even in the class of such intelligent students who were there. But something was missing.
Mhm.
And and I went from, like society lays out for you this, go from here to here to here to here, and you will get this, happiness. The illusory happiness that they say we can attain if we study properly, if we get married, if we have children. The light at the end of the tunnel is this mystical happiness. So I was very much on that path, very busy being successful. But something was missing. And as I went from my undergrad to my master's, I started realizing that my mind was kind of on fire. Even though I was doing everything they were saying I should do, and I didn't uh, have any negative habits or anything like that. I was just, pretty much a definition of a good boy. Um, something was missing, and my mind was on fire. And then I started searching for what is it that will satisfy me. And when I was at IIT, I met this very nice professor, B.S. Murthy, highly accomplished, who was teaching the Samarpan Yoga, which at the heart of it has the silent meditation. They teach you to meditate on your own heartbeat, for example.
Mhm.
And I tried that for a couple of years. It was very helpful. Hindsight is 2020, and material world and material life is kind of like banging your head against the wall. And a path like silent meditation is just stops that banging. So there's some relief. The negative is taken away. But I kept falling asleep in this meditation. Because I'm normally it's more difficult for me to sleep than stay away, than to um, uh, go to sleep. So it was very unusual that I was falling asleep. For me, staying awake is easy. In spite of that, anything you try, which has value, you should try for a period of time. So a couple of years I tried it, and then I got to MIT somehow or the other. And the first week of MIT, I saw this poster, Bhakti Yoga Club, free vegetarian feast. I didn't read the rest of it. I was already a vegetarian. My mother was brought me up as a vegetarian, and at that point, I didn't know any cooking. And Tang Hall at MIT, we had a nice kitchen, but the first several months I was there, I didn't even go near the kitchen. So it was very helpful. There was a free vegetarian feast every Thursday. So I turned up for those programs, and I met this monk, this genial, brilliant, happy, very affectionate person. Romapada Swami, and I asked him many, many questions. I like asking questions, so I asked him many, many questions, and he invited me to this retreat in a place called Gita Nagari. And when I went there, they taught me this mantra meditation, and that was extremely helpful for me, chanting the Maha Mantra. I didn't fall asleep, but somehow, even though uh, with silent meditation, everything was silent and still. The mind was still very noisy. But with mantra meditation, with these transcendental sounds, the mind got silent, even though the tongue was noisy. It was vibrating those sounds. So ever since I have chanted the Maha Mantra and been on this path of Bhakti Yoga, slowly, I started practicing the different aspects of Bhakti. And my favorite out of those is reading the Bhagavad Gita. It's called Swadhyaya Yajna. And because my nature is to be studious and study and be kind of a nerd, I tend to uh, speak on the Bhagavad Gita, read the Bhagavad Gita. Recently, I've been teaching this course to an institute in India, through an institute in India called Mayapur Institute, called Bhakti Shastri course. And it really adds to my life. It centers my life. I currently have two children, 1 and 3, two daughters, same as Rajiv also has two daughters. Um, 1 and 3, his daughters are much older, as you can guess. And I have, responsibilities with my company, with Gradient. So Gradient is a company we started out of MIT. So I met one of my best friends, my brother Anurag Bajpai, when we were lab mates at MIT. We were of one mind, but extremely different people. Uh, he used to love his beer. So there's a pub called Muddy Charles on a Memorial Drive in Cambridge. I'm sure Jack knows where it is. So he used to take me there, and he would get his beer. I'll get my herbal tea, and, and we'll spend hours talking about life and what we want to do. And very fortunately, we were highly unhireable. Nobody would have given us a job out of our PhD. We were so specialized. I had invented something that only I could commercialize in terms of technology, and so nobody would have hired us. So we decided we need employment. We got married at the end of our PhDs. We need a job, so let's start a company. And we've gone from strength to strength. Uh, the intention behind the company has always been to um, positively impact society. um, His Holiness Radhanath Swami, he'll be speaking at this Bhakti Yoga conference. I highly recommend you guys do not miss that session. Uh, he is the most knowledgeable, the most sweet uh, speaker and person you will ever meet. So he talks about this very nicely. While Gradient and my work is dealing with external pollution, everything we do in this world, anything you use, your laptop, your phone, your car, your house, everything consumes water. And in the process of producing anything, you convert, water which is in a good state, consumable state, to various levels of contamination and toxicity. And Gradient's work is to clean up that and recycle water so that we conserve water for generations to come. Okay. That and hence it deals with external pollution in this world, whereas Bhakti Yoga deals with internal pollution. So it very much is symbiotic, my work. So Gradient has grown from a basement lab at MIT with two uh, awkward Indian kids to 1,400 people. I checked as of last Friday. We have offices in 23 major countries. We'll make 600 million US dollars in revenue this year. We're valued at a couple of $1 billion. And I just can't believe it, how we got here in 12 to 13 years. Somehow or the other, the universe, when you have the right intention, uh, when when uh, when like Rajiv very nicely cap Pablamizes it. When you have the intent to earn with integrity and spend with compassion, somehow the universe and the supreme arrange everything, and you don't even know how you succeeded. So that's a little bit of my background. I hope I didn't bore everyone for too long.
No, that was beautiful. Thank you both for it's really nice to get to know you, to get to know the person behind the brand, the business. Um, I have so many questions, but maybe we should give some space here to Rajeev Prabhu, who is going to share a little bit about Artha Forum, and then we'll see the space we have. But thank you so much, Paramananda Prabhu. Rajeev Prabhu, would you like me to pull up the PowerPoint?
Yes, yes, that will be great. Thank you. So, we started Artha Forum in about 2012, 2013. And, this is an event where at each of the Artha Forum events, and I'm hoping someday some of this gets replicated in a place where it is needed most, the World Economic Forum, that we always have a spiritual person and somebody who is, a conscious entrepreneur like, Parmanand Prabhu and many others. And that creates an impact because, at World Economic Forum, you have people who will try and tell you why you should give at a logical level. But when the same message comes from a spiritual person, so we will always try to, connect these entrepreneurs, business leaders, and have a spiritual teacher like Radhanath Swami, and I'll share with you many others, where they try to give us the why. Like most people know that the why, companies which have their why defined, they do well. But if you take the why one step further, where you can try to tell them that think of yourself as a custodian, and and build your business with these principles, the Vedic principles. And what I'm very happy to share is that many of the next gen, like I had one investor who came to me in panic saying, I have two children, one of them is into music, and the second person has told me that, Dad, you have a 15,000 employee business. I'm not going to join that business because you neither have ESG nor purpose in your business. So, the next gen, we are seeing that they are yearning for having purpose in what they do. And that's one of the things that give me a lot of hope. I will just go to the next slide, or is there a way I can change it?
Just say
So,
next, and I'll do it. Yeah.
oh, sorry. Yeah, sure. So, late His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami, he has spoken at many of our events. We were also fortunate to have Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj and Tulsi Gabbard, who's also, a practitioner of Bhakti, and she also spoke. So all of these people are, I would say business professionals doing well, and spiritual leaders who have been speaking and giving this message which goes into the hearts. Next row. Radhanath Swami, who you will hopefully on the 11th of April get to hear from him. And then Rishikesh Mafatlal. In fact, I remember, his father, that is Arvind Mafatlal, would say that, he was among the top three business people in India. And he would say that when, in one sense, wealth comes to my house with folded hands at the doorstep, I ask what we, refer to wealth as Lakshmi, that I ask Lakshmi ji, are you coming to my house to allow me to serve, Narayan or to serve humanity? Then please come. Otherwise, you will come into my house and like, we have, we have in Ramayana that if you try, like Ravan tried to steal Sita ji. So when you're trying to, so when Lakshmi ji comes, like she went to Lanka, she will burn your house anyway and go. So that was the mood with which he would, be doing business. Next, Lou. I'll just quickly run through this. Coming back to our topic, we want to say that dharma is not a religion. People confuse the word with, religion. And, if we try to bring dharma into business, then you will actually see that, if you're trying to protect dharma, dharma protects you. And if you are, trying to just be a taker, you will see that anybody who is, doing business without dharmic principles, the end is definitely going to be where dharma will, not give you peace and happiness. So we have seen that, and we'll go to the next slide. I know I have to do this quickly and leave it for question answers. So basically, if the businesses are on the four pillars of dharma, which is compassion, truthfulness, cleanliness, and austerity, where we don't think of just the investors, we don't just think of the profits as the only goal, then I'm trying to say you build a long-term sustainable business. And one example of this is the Tata Group. The Tata Group 130 years back, uh, at the very inception, allocated 55% of their ownership to giving back. And 130 years later, you'll see they are still there all over the world. They have given over 100 billion in giving back, and they have produced leaders with great humility. So that's where we are trying to say that if you try to do business with dharmic principles, you will see, like, even Parmanand Prabhu was saying, somehow or the other, whatever your ability is, your ability multiplies, and you are surprised at how much success the Lord, empowers you to do. Next, Prabhu. So, I've just, very briefly, shared that, when you're doing business, if you ask the dharmic entrepreneur, or you ask an entrepreneur, why are you doing it? Surely you're solving some problem or the other. You're either solving water problem or some technology problem. But if the why is that you want to do well for your family and to give, and that's where, the Shastras have, Srila Prabhupada had, shared with us that if you can balance it, where, you keep half for your family and share the other half with humanity, then what I have seen, both in the case of Parmanand Prabhu and several other entrepreneurs, that you outdo yourself. It's not that, when 50% sounds like a bigger number, but very soon, if that is your consciousness, then you will see that the other 50% the Lord gives is more than what your family needs. Next row. So, basically, I'll just try to give you the nutshell here, that if you try to bring this concept of seva, this concept of, doing what you're doing so that you can serve both your family and humanity, okay, then you will have, this business today, everybody will agree, is responsible, or what I call as the greed-based business, is responsible for all our problems. You see, you know, climate change, you see all the horrors of so many things, whereas, one great leader in India said, there is enough in the world for everyone's need, but not enough for one man's greed. And so we strongly feel that this, earn with integrity, spend with compassion, both makes business sense and, makes people happier, doing business the dharmic way. Next one. And I'll just end with saying that, we are very happy to share that many, of the people who have come to our, these Artha Forum events. The latest, I somehow didn't want to put everybody's name, was a young entrepreneur who's 27 years old. I think, Parmanand Prabhu, you met him at the Eco Village briefly. And he has a technology company which is a competitor to ChatGPT. He's listed by Forbes top 30 under 30. And at the very first event, he, felt inspired by, Parmanand Prabhu and the others who are in the audience as well as speakers. His company is valued at 200 million. He's worth 160 million. And even he decided, that he would give half, so these younger, the youngsters, the next generation, they have not, you know, they are very inspired when we just share with them that why don't you think of doing the same thing you're doing. Spirituality is consciousness. It's, like if somebody who's in the field of, being a warrior, like Arjun, you know, externally he's doing the same thing, but his consciousness is he's doing it as a service to, to the Lord and to humanity. So we have seen with, the medical doctors who are close friends of mine, they try to bring seva attitude in in the medical profession. And today the Lord has given them a beautiful hospital, Bhakti Vedanta Hospital. So we are humbly trying to request everybody that bring the concept of seva in what you're doing. And if your profession is business, if you bring that, you will see both happiness, because you're not a taker. You will behave in the same way with your family. If you're just a taker, most people will end up being miserable. So here we are seeing these younger entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs of tomorrow, and we are hopefully trying to expand this and see how we can give this Vedic teaching of, as Radhanath Swami has often quoted, earn with integrity, spend with compassion, and bring dharma in what you do. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Um, what I'd love to do, we'll open it up to questions here soon, but thank you both for sharing. I guess what's on my mind, I'm thinking about the audience here who are it's so inspiring to hear first the impact that you've both had, and then also just the generosity that you have of giving away 50%. And I can imagine, for some of us on the call who haven't amassed, that level of wealth yet. I guess I'm curious. So I've heard about, getting clarity on your why. I've heard about, really serving your family, serving humanity, really focused on seva. And I guess, one question, would you recommend us start being generous up to 50% giving back even in the beginning stages? Did you do that? Would you mentor others to do that? A friend of mine, Tony Robbins, his wife will speak here in a couple of weeks. And he would often say, Jack, if you don't give a dime out of a dollar, you're not going to give 1 million out of 10 million. So like to start now, to start cultivating that mood. And so I guess I wanted to understand, would you also recommend that? And I'd also love to hear just any other suggestions that you have for us, of being able to have this level of impact. And I think it's very inspiring to hear what you've shared. If you would elaborate on it, maybe if we jump to Prakash Prabhu, we'll bounce back. We'll just get you off of mute.
Sure. Very inspiring, Rajiv. I have heard him present this a few times, but every time I learn something new. Thank you, and great question. I mean, you can think of it from many ways. Like you said, the why is very important. I personally believe that if you can set the why, the how, and the everything else sorts itself out, as long as you put your effort into it. Um, in terms of giving, it's not so much about the quantum of how much you give. If you ask me, it's the intent with which you give. Are you giving to become famous? Did a movie just come out about you, criticizing you for something, and you want to clear up your PR image, and hence you're giving away 90% of your wealth? Or are you doing it just out of compassion and empathy, and a mood of service? While giving is about compassion towards others and empathy, it is also self-empathy, if you ask me. An example would be, many of us are parents, we have children, and many of you are entrepreneurs. I heard from Jack describe earlier, or even in other walks of life. Perhaps when we grew up, we had a level of resources and money, and uh, I'll take my own example, right? I grew up in a lower middle class family in India, so I have always had this hunger. because I didn't have so much, and there was no entitlement associated to my upbringing. I've always had this hunger to make an impact in the world. But now my children, they have much more than I ever did, and they can very easily become entitled. They're not growing up in southern India in a middle class setup. They're growing up in Boston, Singapore, and now UAE, and very well-off places, surrounded by people who have wealth. So the act of giving is also to ensure that they uh, do not get entitled, so to speak. It is not a very long line to draw from our own material success and wealth to their potentially becoming entitled and not having hunger in life, which is a very unfortunate thing. The most important thing in life is purpose and hunger. So I think giving is a requirement for good parenting. Um, so it's very much self-empathy as it is, you know, as it is compassion and being attached to different causes around the world. Hope that helps.
That's very helpful. Yeah, I really love that about our intention. It's not about how much we give but just the mood, the compassion, the intention behind it. Thank you for that. Rajiv, would you like to add some thoughts as well before we take our first question with Sarah and George?
Uh, sure. Yeah, okay. I'll just very briefly mention, as Parmanand Prabhu beautifully explained, giving is I would try to say giving is in various ways: time, thoughts, action. So I would always suggest that don't look at giving at the cost of family. They say charity begins at home. So if, let's say, you give whatever the family can, without the family being in distress. So it's for those of us who are married, we will definitely like to talk to the spouse before we give. So at least the consciousness of somebody who's, let us say, commercially, either in a job or this, is I want to give to my family. When, if the Lord gives me more than what my family needs, and that's something you define at the beginning. So when you're a student and you go into college, or you look at a certain standard of living that you had. If the Lord gives you more, then you can look at giving, some amount of Lakshmi. But at the same time, don't wait for what I call as, I have to get 1 billion and then give. So if you are just praying to the Lord, that guide me. I don't want to put my family at distress. Like sometimes I've seen some people, you know, get emotional and they want to offer a lot. And then the spiritual teacher tells them, hey, if you try to give so much, then your family will be in distress. So we need to, first take care of the family and then pray, keep the desire to give alive. And if you get more than what, your family, you and your wife decide, does the family need, so that the children are, what you call that, the children have, what they need for education. And, you have to be a balanced grahastha. And if supposing you can give only $1, okay, please give that $1, you know, but pray to the Lord that, let me, I want to go back to the same office because I'm, grahastha, I'm, having to earn. And then, the Lord may choose to empower you. But most important is keep the thought, keep the this thing, and don't, if you are giving something and you're feeling stressed, don't do it, because that's, giving either for some external reason. So let that all happen naturally. Chanting the holy names, going to satsang. So even giving, just like Prabhupada, when he started ISKCON, he won't tell people, what not to do. He would just continue to give them love, and then these things start happening naturally. This formula or some such thing is not necessarily, the way to approach it. It is the thought, it is the heart, and it is, what you call it, the desire that I would, you see so many people who are I would try to say so much impoverished even today in the world. You've got 8 people who have more wealth than 3.5 billion people, right? So that is the level of inequality that exists in the world. And so what can we do if we, even if we can't do, at least have a desire, and then the Lord will guide you from within.
Beautiful. I love that. And I just want to say, I see you actually living it. So it's one thing to talk and share this with us, but I actually saw it, Rajeev. Again, we were sitting in this room a couple of weeks ago. There were some really young entrepreneurs from the Harvard Business School having lunch with us. And as you were talking about this, you through conversations that you had, they had all set a number. It's like, hey, you know what? This is a number I'm setting as a goal to take care of my family for life. And once I exceed that, we get to give and we get to really make an impact. And so I love that, this is not just a concept or an idea, but you're actually living it. But let's take our first question. Sarah and George over in Kent, UK. Welcome.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Welcome. Thank you. Lovely presentation. Thank you. It's been great to have you here. You were talking about how much you were recommending people give of their business or
Wealth.
salary.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you do this yourselves. So what I was interested in is, can you give me examples on a very small level that you personally do, and maybe these are things you do every week or just occasionally, but on a very small level, so it's more relatable to most of the people here, and then perhaps some examples of some of the big things that you've given, and specifically what they were. That's what I'm more interested in, rather than just saying, oh yeah, we gave 10 million away. So
and
what's
how
that?
did you pick where to
Yeah.
put it?
Yes, so give some specificity both on a very small level, just tiny things you personally do, and on a bigger level as to what projects you did, with that money.
Beautiful question.
Paramananda.
You want to start with, Paramananda Prabhu?
Sure. I I'm less experienced and hence I have less examples to give, so it's a good place to start with me. I can give all the examples I have, and it'll still not take much time. Giving for me is not just money and wealth, but also my time and my wife's time and my family's time. So every week, one thing I do out of self-empathy, not just in a mood of helping someone else or something like that, is I teach the Bhagavad Gita to, there are two groups I teach to now. On Sundays, I teach to a group of doctors. One of my neighbors in Abu Dhabi, Dr. Manish, is a general surgeon, and he attended one of my Bhagavad Gita classes, and he requested I teach to his doctor friends. So about 40, 50 doctors attend that. And it's very interesting. Doctors see people die on a daily basis or at least a regular basis. And for them, concepts like reincarnation, that you're not this body and you're the soul and you go from body to body, is very easy to grasp. You don't even have to explain it. Just say reincarnation and move on. They understand. So it's a very, very nice experience for me also. It helps me go deeper into the teachings of Krishna. So that's one thing. The other is in college audiences. So this is a service to my guru, Ramapada Swami, who I mentioned earlier. So he he met me at a university, and at some point in life, I figured I've been taking and taking and taking, and I have to give back. And one nice place to give back is universities, because in my experience, including at MIT, there's a lot of mental distress. In MIT, I don't know whether it's still there. I know there are a couple of students from MIT in this audience. Maybe you can chime in if it's not there anymore, but it used to be there when I was a student. We had Suicide Mondays. What that means is every third Monday was a holiday. relieve the pressure on the students because there were so many suicides, even in a place like MIT where there are students who have I mean, I was one of the lowest IQ people in the whole campus, so I knew how intelligent he are. When you don't have something, you can appreciate what others have. So on a small ongoing basis, that's one thing I do. When I was in Boston, one thing we used to do, I had a friend, Swarna, who was also a PhD student. So every year during the winter, if you walk around Cambridge and Boston and all these areas, there's quite a bit of homelessness, unfortunately. And there is many of them I used to go talk to, and I naturally like meeting people and talking to them. And they would share their life stories. So one initiative we started, which is really small, is we didn't have any money. We were grad students. So we'd pull together some $50, $100, buy some cheap groceries from Star Market. And she was a very good cook, and I would cut vegetables or do whatever simple thing I can do. And we'd put together a nice package meal, and we'll take it to the people there. So those on an ongoing basis in terms of my time, I we did. It also involves a little bit of money, but on a larger scale, one thing I'm very passionate about is uh, giving the opportunity for college students to know there is such a thing as bhakti, and for them to have a shot at living a life of bhakti, an opportunity that I myself got, and I would have loved to got even when I was an undergraduate student. So we are in the process of deploying quite a bit of capital, mostly from the proceeds from my company and my friends, including people like Rajiv helping. We are buying these houses right next to universities. Like I'm in Austin for South by Southwest right now. Just a kilometer from here, a mile from here, we bought a house which we call Krishna House, and the students get to come and stay there. It's subsidized housing. There's a lot of poverty among undergraduate and graduate, especially graduate students are below the poverty line sometimes. So they get to stay at a cost lower than the dormitories and so on. They get holistic meals, yoga classes, free yoga classes. We appoint a house master, ideally a couple, a married couple who can cook for them, who can teach yoga, and who can teach bhakti. So yeah, they attend the morning Mangal Aarti service. They go to their university. They have their own room in the house to do their homework, all that stuff. But they also do that within the regulative principles of bhakti. So uh, Krishna willing, and with the um, descending mercy, hopefully we can do many of these. So that's something big and something small, like you asked.
That sounds
Thank you.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Great question. Rajiv, please, would you share also?
I just thought we have a little less time. Pat had a question. I can just see him. Should we just hear what he wanted to ask? So Paramahansa Prabhu's answered it beautifully.
We can do that. Yeah. Okay. Those were great examples. And I just want to say, I mean,
Yeah.
that is something all of us can do because we have time. We all have 24 hours in a
Yes.
day, and you're both being very generous of your time. So we're very grateful for that. But let's send some love, high vibes to Sarah and George over in the UK. Thank you for the great question. All right. And yes, let's bring Patrick on the line. Patrick, welcome.
Thanks for calling me. Rajeev, so I'm curious, what would you say to young entrepreneurs in terms of attracting capital? Do you think it takes away from their message if they're talking to investors and they're being very open about the fact that they want to give away a large part of the profits? And the other question I have, you can pick, is the gorilla in the room, I think, is what Trump is doing, I live in Washington, D.C. now for the last 3 years. A lot of friends are in panic that work for different agencies, but the ripple effect of that and how that affects the role of conscious capitalism and with the trend that's being set by the U.S. government.
And Pat, I'll just take the first one. I'm not saying the company's profits. You cannot do anything, any entrepreneur when they're trying to raise capital. I had investors like Warburg Pincus and Insight Capital. So I cannot take any part of the company's profits because I'm not the only shareholder. So I'm more talking about your ownership. If you have ownerships and the shares are worth more than what your family needs. So once again, I look at giving back. Like today, if you talk to Harvard students, they they have relatively simpler needs. When you're passing out of college, it's only when you go outside in the sort of big bad world, then whatever you make, you want more and more, and that is a never-ending story. So if every person starts their entrepreneurship journey, and I can tell you that you'll attract wonderful people when they come to know. Like I mean, I still remember you telling me very clearly when I was starting my journey that nobody gave me a chance that it's going to succeed, and I myself wasn't sure it's going to succeed. But what I feel is that when these entrepreneurs, and that's what we are trying to tell the younger entrepreneurs, when you start your business journey and you define this is what me and my family need, if the Lord and but strive to do better than that so that you can give a part of the increment. See, there is no formula here. I'm saying that charity, the giving should happen when the family is safe and secure. But when you start the journey, be honest. Like, I never thought when I started my journey that my business will be A or B, right? You know, to be honest, I thought if I had created a $4 or $5 million business, that is, great. And I didn't give myself that much of a chance. But because, what you call that, I had this thought that if the Lord gives me more, we leave it to the Lord, then I would work in the same office much harder so that the giving can also be there. So we are not trying to say give everything. If you are getting more than what your family needs, then please look at giving. Otherwise, whatever you want is never enough. I mean, if you don't define the why in the beginning, you will never be able to stop it. And you know, and you mentioned, can I just get an understanding when you said in Washington, D.C. and Trump? I didn't exactly get that question.
Oh, we'll just get you off of mute again. Sorry. Just hit the unmute button, Patrick. Yeah.
So I think my point is that there's a lot of uncertainty in the NGO world right now because the U.S. led, whether their contributions were meaningful or not in any given agency, but even the tone that they set, I think is a critical factor. So living in DC right now, or just outside of DC, there seems to be a panic that people don't know what they should be giving, and the NGOs don't know what they should be spending because there's so much uncertainty how that could how that role can be maybe supplemented by the private sector.
So Pat, here is where I see a big opportunity because the same thing was discussed even in class, where a lot of NGOs are concerned as to, will they get regular funding? And so I'm basically humbly trying to share for every NGO, there are some conscious entrepreneurs. Let us actually try to, the world doesn't need regular entrepreneurs. If we can start giving them this, message, you will see that every entrepreneur who's a genuine conscious entrepreneur outdoes himself. I never thought I'm going to, Parmanand Prabhu never thought he's going to create a company of 1 to 2 billion. I've seen him from 2018. And, so if, in these times, I can say that if we can have more events where I tell an NGO, why are you just looking at donations? If you can, in one sense, get on the cap table, of any of these conscious entrepreneurs and, guide. In the same DC, there used to be one entrepreneur, I don't want to name him. He was making 1 million profit a year. Okay. when I told him at least on an incremental basis, include giving. So in these situations, if we start trying to, like NGOs, the problem is that they have only tried to look at short-term funding. Why not appeal to your donors and, reach out to their hearts so that at least on an incremental basis, they can give. So this same entrepreneur who's based in Baltimore, he used to make $1 million a year. I, I humbly suggested to him that, look, from next year onwards, at least think that any more profits you get, give so much to the NGO. And you will see that in these times of need, so you're not really taking anything away from what he has. But if you start at least on an incremental basis, inspiring these entrepreneurs to, on an incremental basis, give, you will see today the same entrepreneur makes 12 million profit a year, and 12 minus 1, which I told him, give half of that away. And that half could be partly to employees who are at the bottom of the company or to any other NGO. So I think there's a big opportunity, Pat, here for sharing conscious entrepreneurship, because you will work 5 times harder when you are trying to do the same activity as a service to humanity.
So if I'm hearing right, you're saying that it's a stronger model to be an impact corporation versus a traditional nonprofit that's dependent solely on donations or handouts from donors, that you're responsible for your own existence because you're a company.
You at least inspire others. See, you are an NGO, you are appealing to donors in the normal way, but add this part that try to inspire through the good work you're doing, inspire your donors to kind of be more committed actually, when you make them think this way, Pat, you are helping them. When I've never been able to ask, even I don't have the purity to ask somebody for even $100. But if I were to tell them, like the same person, if I were to tell, I'm no connection with that NGO. But when this NGO told this person that I will pray for you, you please think that from incremental profits, can you give part of that to the NGO? You will see that this drives the same entrepreneur who's otherwise a donor and doing it as an afterthought. You are helping him because you are giving him a much higher purpose and drive. And I mean, I've seen our Parmanand Prabhu from where it was in 2018 to where he has come, because the NGOs that he supports, he he's genuinely committed. Otherwise, many of us as entrepreneurs, we try to do the minimum. We think, why should I create a $1 billion company? But when many such NGOs are there, that drives you even more. I mean, I wanted to quit in 2004. When I did the NASDAQ listing, I told Swamiji that, what, I don't need to do anymore. Then I met somebody else, another Swami in London, who said that there are so many NGOs. So if you have the ability, then sadly, I'm still continuing my business journey because there are so many NGOs I'm not able to serve enough. So otherwise, I would have quit in I told Radhanath Swami, I'm not doing this anymore. And, what you call that, he said, okay. But then somebody else told me that if you have the ability, just continue so that you can serve more. So similarly, there are lots of young entrepreneurs. If you can bring giving as an integral part, then, why is it that the world has only one Tata car company? Why is it the number of conscious entrepreneurs are very, very small? And I can say to you, Pat, that if we can inspire more such entrepreneurs, no NGO should have to suffer for funds, Trump or no Trump.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Great question, Patrick. Where are you calling in from? All right, wait, you're on mute now, but you're in the DC area.
I lived in the San Francisco area for a long time, but I've been in DC or just outside of DC for 3 years, and I'm actually in the Harvard Extension program.
Oh, beautiful. Well, we're sending love, high vibes, Patrick.
Thank you.
Beautiful question, beautiful response. I want to be respectful of both of your time. You've been incredibly generous, but we've already gone over a few minutes. parting words, if you were to leave, there's so much that you could share. And I know you briefly mentioned Paramananda Prabhu. You're also involved in leading spiritual retreats, and you're both practitioners of Bhakti Yoga. If you were to leave us newer bhaktas on the path with parting words of wisdom, what might you leave us with, each of you? Maybe we start with Rajeev and then to Paramananda.
Sure.
What would you leave us with?
I would just try to say, bring spirituality and the concept of seva in whatever you're doing.
Beautiful.
I don't know how to beat that.
Yeah.
That's just perfect. Two things, like Patrick mentioned, does the fact that you are giving a lot of your wealth away as a founder turn off investors? I feel it's quite the opposite. So giving is when my investors who are very intelligent people hear that there is this aspect of my life and I have a pledge to give away so much and so on, they are inspired most of the time. And one investor especially, they, they invested in Gradient partly because both the founders have this mission. So it's quite the opposite, I feel. Yeah, I conduct these retreats. There's one coming up in Pennsylvania. If you don't mind, Jack, I'll leave a link in the chat box. Please join us. Keep service at the center of your lives. That's what makes us happy ultimately. Thank you so much for having me.
Beautiful. Yeah, please share the link, and both of you, any links, we'll include it under the video because many more will be catching the recording. So share those links. Again, thank you for taking your time at South by Southwest in Austin. Rajeev Prabhu, thank you for organizing this, making this possible, being one of our greatest supporters of this conference. And my friends, thank you for being live here with us. And we've got wishing you an amazing rest of the day. And my friends, we will see you again very soon. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Hare
Prakash.
Namaste.
Hare
Love y'all.
Hare